Good evening. I'm David Marin with the League of Women Voters of Ventura County. Tonight, we're bringing you our candidates forum for those candidates running for the Board of Supervisors representing District 4. This covers the Moore Park area and Simi Valley. We will be having opening statements from each candidate, followed by questions and their answers, and then we'll wrap up with closing statements. All talk tonight, all the answers, all the opening and closing will be exactly 1.5 minutes for each candidate. At this time, it's my great pleasure to introduce the president of the Voter Services Committee of the League of Women Voters, Kathy Morgan.
Welcome to all our panelists and attendees, and thank you for being here tonight. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 with the mission of educating a new group of voters, women, who were granted the right to vote nationwide with the passage of the 19th Amendment 6 months later. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization committed to providing voters with factual, non-biased information, and as such does not support a particular candidate or political party. The League today continues with the mission of empowering voters and defending democracy by registering voters, providing information about the candidates and the issues, getting out the vote, and supporting fair and transparent elections. The candidate forums are an opportunity for voters to hear from the various candidates and to get the information they need to make an informed choice when they vote. Attendees to the forum are invited to submit the questions they wish asked of the candidates when they register. The candidates have not been provided the questions in advance, and each candidate will have the opportunity to answer the questions posed. We are glad that you are here tonight to hear from our candidates. We hope that you get the information you need to make an informed choice. And at this time, I would like to turn it back to tonight's moderator, David Marin. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. We'll go ahead and get started. We randomly drew numbers earlier to determine the order of the candidates. And at this time, we'll begin with our first candidate, Janice Parvin. When you're ready, Janice, you have 1.5 minutes. I have to unmute you there. Also.
Okay, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's event. I have a record of leadership. I am a mayor in District 4 and have been for 14 years. Prior to that, I was a city council member for 6 years. Prior to that, I was a planning commissioner for 6 years. Prior to that, I was a park and recreation commissioner for 2 years. I have worked on countywide boards and commissions, and I have collaborated effectively with local elected officials throughout the state and the region. I have been on boards such as the Ventura Local Agency Formation Commission, the California League of Cities Board of Directors, president of the California League of Cities Channel Counties Division, Ventura County Economic Development Collaborative Board of Director, East County Transportation Alliance, Ventura Council of Governments Board of Directors, Clean Power Alliance Board of Directors, and I'm the past president of the Rotary Club of Moore Park. I was Rotarian of the Year in 2020. I was the board of director of the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park and Simi Valley, and I'm past president of the Boys and Girls Club of Moore Park. I'm a proud member of the American Legion Post 502, and I am not running for the title. I'm running to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ed Abele.
Hello, everyone. I am a proud first-generation American. My parents, like many others, came here with only the clothes on their back. But they had an amazing work ethic they passed on to their children. And they had hope. That hope came in the form of safety and freedom and opportunity. Today, our county residents don't have it that good. Middle and working class residents are leaving the county. Local businesses are fleeing the county. Wealthy elitists are moving from LA County to Ventura County, and our quality of life is steadily declining. I am a 49-year area resident, and my wife Jill and I have decided this is home and we're staying. But if we're staying, we're fighting, and I am a fighter. For over 31 years as a prosecutor, I fought for victims in justice. As Rancho Simi Park Board Chair during the pandemic, I fought to safely open our parks and trails, and now I'm here to fight for you. The priorities of our campaign are the pillars of the American dream: public safety, local businesses and jobs, and freedom and opportunity. During the past several years, your county government has stomped on those pillars. We must get government off our backs. I am here to fight for you. Government belongs to the people. We are in this together, fighting for the American dream.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Dean Kinnicky.
Good evening, and thank you to League of Women Voters and Kathy Morgan and David Marin for putting this on. Appreciate all your guidance in this. You serve a valuable service to our county. Very much appreciated. Listen, I'm not going to talk about issues that are really pending. I think anybody that's listening to this broadcast knows what the issues are, both nationally, locally, and in your own communities. I will tell you, as a past representative for 12 years as the Ventura County Office of Education, one of the things I'm most proud of was to give parents more choice by bringing 5 charter schools to our county. Served for 12 years on the Simi Valley Planning Commission. When the city was looking at budget deficits here, they tapped me to chair their budget advisory committee to try and help find $12.5 million to cover the current pension benefits. We're all headed into tough economic times based on what we see happening. Those times are coming. The fact that my business and deals with numbers, and the fact that the city tapped me to chair their budget advisory committee is because I am a budget wonk. As we get into these hard times going forward, it'll be very important to have somebody that understands the numbers at the county in play. As vice chair of the Ventura County Taxpayers Association, I fight weekly on citizens' behalfs to save you money and to avoid unnecessary taxes. Thank you again for putting this on. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Bernardo Perez.
Thank you. As county supervisor, protecting, preserving, and improving the quality of life for all Ventura County residents will always be my priority. Our campaign is dedicated to fighting for a vision for Ventura County that sustains its promise to every generation living here. I have spent over 40 years in the community, and during that time, I have served as a community volunteer, neighborhood council president, planning commissioner, mayor, and city council member, and as community college trustee for the 4th District. Throughout that time, I have helped produce affordable housing opportunities for working families, seniors, persons with developmental disabilities, farm workers, and other essential workers. Created partnerships with local employers to put people in high demand, high paying jobs and prepare them for opportunities in the changing job market economy. Increased federal funding available to Simi Valley, Moore Park, and Ventura County by millions of dollars over the next decade. Provided long-term solutions like housing and supportive services to individuals and families experiencing homelessness that promote dignity and self-sufficiency, increased childcare options, including the construction of new facilities, and saved $13 million of taxpayer funds annually. I didn't achieve this alone, but by working with others and with input from the community. I know that only by working together can we hope to achieve solutions to the issues that confront us. Moving forward as county
Thank you,
supervisor.
Bernardo. We'll have to stop you there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our first question. Ed, you're up first. Ed, let's talk about housing. What will you do as a supervisor to increase affordable housing?
Sure. So in terms of affordable housing, the one thing we need to do, and this is going to be a common theme with all the issues we're facing, probably every question that's asked tonight, we need to get government off our backs. We need to have less government. What we don't want to do is just constantly be subsidizing housing. By deregulating government, by taking regulations off of business, we can get businesses to come back. And if businesses come back, jobs will come back, and better paying jobs will come back, and people will be able to afford their housing. The key to all this is letting the private sector take care of things. What we can't afford to do is to build high density housing that is going to hurt our environment, that is going to drive even more middle-class families away. So what we need to do is deregulate. We need to bring business back. We need to bring jobs back. We need our middle class back. Right now, what we're seeing develop, and we don't want to become like LA County, is an increasing elitist class and an increasing class that can't afford housing. So that is the key to all of this. The other thing we need to do is we need to fight to get local control of housing back. We need to make sure that our residents got what they bargained for, not so that it's controlled by the state. It's our local agencies that best know what the housing needs for our residents are. So we need to return to local control of housing.
Thank you, Ed. Bernardo, same question to you. What will you do as a supervisor to increase affordable housing?
Okay, I have been a housing advocate for 40 years as a community volunteer, then as a member of the board of directors, and then later as a development project manager with one of the premier nonprofit organizations in Ventura County. And what we need to do as the county is to work in greater collaboration with the resources that we have available in partnership with local governments that are looking to provide smart growth development to serve a range of housing choices for the residents in the cities and in the county. And one thing that the county is embarking upon, and I support, is a farm worker housing study, because the labor force of our farm workers sustains our agricultural industry, and we need to get a better handle on the precise number of farm workers in our county, and therefore better plan for the housing to provide for the farm workers. We have a finite area of undeveloped land throughout the county, and we just need to be smarter and more efficient. We need to look for those governmental constraints and remove them. We've got a lot of various regulatory agencies that affect the planning and development of housing, and we need to make sure that they're all in alignment to help achieve the goal of providing housing choices for everybody.
Thank you. Janice, you're up next. Same question to you. What will you do to increase affordable housing?
Well, I was doing a great job of
I'm sorry, Janice, I accidentally cut you off. We'll restart. That is definitely a moderator error. So if you could unmute, and we'll give you a chance to start over. I apologize. Okay, Janice.
That's right.
Same question to you.
30
What will you do to increase affordable housing?
We were doing such a good job of affordable housing before the state took away our redevelopment agencies. But housing is too expensive, and we have a lack of housing options. Apartments do not help build equity, and that's a big problem. What we need are more condominiums, middle range housing, smaller homes with a smaller footprint. But right now in my city, we are working on our general plan, and we're going to allow more housing in our underutilized commercial centers. But the state continues to put mandates on cities. And with the loss of redevelopment agency, it's really significantly impacting our ability to build affordable housing units. They're telling us where to put them, when we put them there. They don't take into account any constraints that we have in our cities. For example, we have hazardous fire zones, we have flood zones, we have accessibility to public transit, or maybe community services aren't available. Cities themselves know where the affordable housing should go. Cities should have redevelopment agencies back so we have the tools necessary to build them. The county continues to place restraints on our projects. For example, there's one project, I know I have 14 seconds. There's one project in Moore Park that's been trying to be built for 20 years. And every time he gets close to getting it built, more restrictions are put on it from the county. And they have nothing to do with his project. So he said he could build the pyramid in that time. Thank you.
Okay, Dean, we'll wrap up with you on the same question. If you're elected supervisor, what will you do to increase affordable housing?
Thank you, David. I get to have a unique perspective on this because I am a developer. Bernardo didn't mention it, but the group he worked with was Cabrillo Economic Development, one of the nicest and best firms in the county trying to provide housing for those in need. I was fortunate enough here in my own community to provide the first veteran affordable apartment housing. Recently, knowing that the rents were so high and our businesses in SEMA were complaining they couldn't get employees, took a piece of land we had and we entitled the first SRO project, the loft project, with facilities that'll rent for $1,000 a month. That's great for the students. That's great for the first-time home buyer trying to save money for their down payment. within hours of getting that project approved, I got a call from a new policeman on our police department. Please reserve a unit for me. I can't afford to buy a home here in town yet, but I want to be in this community. So I bring that unique perspective of being involved in this industry, understanding the time and money, the dollars, the financing aspect, and everything that's involved with trying to do affordable housing and do housing that's really attainable. Again, with SB 9 and SB 10 out of the state, they never account for the unintended consequences that are foisted upon local government when they take away local control. That's something I'll be monitoring and plan on fighting continually as I have in the past to try and get local control back to our community.
Thank you, Dean. We're going to stay with you, Dean, for the next question. You get to go first this time. Let's shift gears, everyone, and talk a little bit about the environment and climate change. So, Dean, share with us your plans to help the county adapt to climate change. And do you have specific plans to also make the county more environmentally efficient?
Well, you know, the county's got quite a climate plan in place already. The current Board of Supervisors have moved very aggressively on trying to set standards. We know what's coming out of the state and the feds as far as car mileage and the different items there. I'll be very frank, the one thing I am opposed to is as we move into this green environment, the idea of shutting down the oil industry in Ventura County currently, I think is premature, and it's one of those unintended consequences of being too aggressive as you try and move forward into a greener environment. I think those standards for oil and gas are very sound, especially on the gas side. We need to be able to have that continue here to have the economic viability for this county to move forward as they move into a greener environment. Thank you.
You're welcome. Janice, you're up next. Please share with us your plans to help the county adapt to climate change, and what will you do to help the county be more environmentally efficient?
Well, the county's done a good job with their plan for climate change, in my opinion. But really, California should be investing in federal infrastructure using federal infrastructure funding to ensure reliable water supply for all Californians. Even for the drought, we knew we needed new storage conveyance facilities. We knew that. We need to move closer to a water reliability solution. We need more desalination plants that are being constructed. We need more stormwater capture. We need to recover more stormwater. We need a development of groundwater sustainability plans for all 6 of the groundwater agencies in Ventura County. And not only that, we need to be, having some controlled fires. With all the fires that are going on, we need to do some control fires so that we can clean the brush up and protect ourselves from the terrible wildfire risks.
Thank you. Bernardo, same question to you here. What will you do to help the county adapt to climate change? What are your plans to make the county more environmentally efficient?
Well, I would draw on my past experience in 2 areas. One, I'm serving on the Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance, and I previously served on a statewide committee, the Southern California Water Committee, looking at solutions for water availability for all California, but specifically for Southern California. And we've got to do a better job, as others have said already, of conserving and reusing some of our finite water resources. And we should be on the cutting edge for these various activities. In the community college district, we put solar panels at all 3 of our parking lots, and that will help cut our utility bills and cut our utility consumption, helping the environment. And it's with that outlook in past performance that I would hope that the county continues to do a good job, but we should always strive to improve and seek to be on the cutting edge of technology and improvements that help clean water, clear the air, and help the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, same question to you. What would you do?
Great. And it's a really interesting question because, I've now knocked on the doors of probably 12,000 voters. And when we talk about priorities and things that are important to them, not one of those voters has mentioned that the climate is their priority. Everybody cares about the climate. Everybody cares about the environment. We want a healthy environment. We care about the climate. But the problem is there's already so many government restrictions on the climate. And because of that, we're hurting in other places. The idea that it would be environmentally sound to vote yes on Measure A and basically get rid of oil and gas production in Ventura County just doesn't make sense, because then we would just have to import more oil, and that is actually less environmentally desirable. And so a lot of these feel-good statements, the water is another example. Absolutely, we need to look into desalination. Think about this. We are bordered by the Pacific Ocean. We have the potential for the greatest water supply there is. Our friends, our allies over in Israel are a country on the edge of a desert, and they are a water superpower because they know how to get it done. Desalination, storage in the meantime, but we could have an endless supply of clean water if we went with desalination. We need to start thinking about less government restrictions and more for what's good for the people.
Thank you, Ed. Bernardo, you're up first on this next question. Let's talk about water. So the attendee who wrote these questions, what are your plans about improving the water issue? And also point out that in your district, Moore-Park and Simi Valley, there are quite a few golf courses that tend to use a lot of water. So I'm just going to ask all of you to talk about water, the drought, and helping the golf courses to reduce their water use. Share with us your plans specifically for those kind of water issues.
Well, I don't have all the answers to every question tonight, but some immediate thoughts are we need to be more efficient with the use of our finite water resources. And regarding golf courses, I'm not a golfer, but I know there are some courses that limit the expanse of lawn area these days. Maybe one of you golfers there can tell me what there's a term for that, where they limit the amount of greenery on the golf course. I'm suddenly losing my train of thought here. I apologize.
The other part was about drought.
Okay. We've heard about the dire predictions of severe water cuts for usage. What we have to do is keep a balance, because a lot of people have already been conserving water and have reduced their water consumption. So we can't have a one size fits all and everybody now has to cut by 30–35%. I mean, some people have already cut that much. So what are we going to do there? There's got to be a sliding scale. We've got to take into account that not penalize those that have been doing a good job already. And some of the other things for dealing with the drought have already been mentioned. They're common sense. Building more storage capacity. I do like, Ed, thank you. I will come. I read that same article about Israel, and they're on the cutting edge of being, of desal. And we need to look at proper investment in infrastructure like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernardo. Dean, same question to you. Tell us your views about how the county can deal with water situations, including potential drought and golf course management and just the use of water within your district.
Well, let's start with golf courses. I can't get past the windmill at the miniature golf course with the grandkids. I don't see much watering going on there. But I do know here in town with the golf course we had, one of the major courses here that had two courses, they shut one down. It's getting ready to go into development. The city is plumbing up from their site for reclaimed water that is non-potable to get to these golf courses to assist them with some watering. That's what's going on the local level. Now we keep hearing everybody talk about desal. Listen, when you fly into Israel, all you see is desert, 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 and all of a sudden here's this great, beautiful green patch. That's Israel. That was put together by a member of the Knesset by the name of Uzi Landau. Uzi headed up their whole desal and greening of Israel. We've had multiple conversations with Uzi because for years I've been working on bringing in technology from Australia with another company I've been working with to handle wave energy off our coast that would provide the energy we need. Along with that, working with Uzi, I've learned a lot about desal and how Israel handled byproducts. the amount of water they could produce, so forth and so on. So I've been on this issue for years, and we are so far behind in technology. It's time at the county level that we take an aggressive look at this and do something rather than just talk about it.
Thank you. Ed, same question to you. Your plans dealing with water within the
Right.
district?
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
And sure, to follow up on what I was saying on the earlier question, and Dean makes an excellent point. And I think this is a great thing. And this is what I'm talking about. We need to be here for the people. And it's great that everyone is in agreement on this. And you know, I'm going to push the idea. We have the Pacific Ocean here. We can have a virtually endless supply of water for decades to come if we just take the time to do it. And if we stop worrying about government, it seems like all government wants to do is restrict us. The idea that we're only going to be able to water our lawns one day a week, what do we think is going to happen with that? People come home from a hard day's work and they can't even enjoy their lawn. They're going to want to leave the county. And then we're going to lose even more middle class. We need to do things to keep the middle class here. And so, yes, for the time being, we need to conserve. We need storage, but we need to be aggressive about moving forward with desalination. There is no reason why we can't do that here in Ventura County. So again, we need to start looking for solutions, not where government clamps down on us, not where government is restrictive on us, but things that we can do to make government less restrictive so we can enjoy our quality of life, so we can have a higher quality of life. And absolutely, desalination is the way to go, and we need to start looking at that seriously.
Thank you, Ed. And Janice, we'll wrap up this question with you. Share with us your thoughts about conserving water in the district, the golf courses, the drought.
Well, you know, I know in my community, we have been reducing our water usage significantly. Not only that, the city itself has reduced water in all of our parks. We deleted a great amount of turf. We created more trails when we deleted the turf. But how we're getting the golf courses watered is using recycled water from the wastewater waterworks District 4. And it's recycled water from sewer. Doesn't sound very exciting, but it's clean by the time it gets onto the golf course. And you know, we continue to work to reduce water. We have low water irrigation systems all over the entire city. I'm sure the county has some. I plan to look at that. But you know, we're at the point where desal plants are critical. When you only are able to water once a week for 8 minutes, that's going to pretty much kill everything on our properties. And then we have a dust issue. And then, by the way, we have an unemployed landscaper. We have other issues that compound from that. So, I mean, all I can say is I've been watching water for many, many years, because we go in drought and then out of drought, in drought. But this time, this is a serious drought. And it will cause people to rethink whether they want to live in Ventura County. And I want to keep them here. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. I'm going to go ahead and stay with you, and we'll start the next question. So the Ventura County oversees the Sheriff's Department, responsible for protecting many contract cities and unincorporated areas. So in specific question is regarding what can the county do to prevent these catalytic converter thieves and the surge in those thefts. But overall, share with us your priorities for the sheriff's budget. Would you also redirect any money or make certain areas a higher priority? So please share with us thoughts about catalytic converters and the overall spending on crime prevention in the county.
Well, that's a very good question. We have been dealing with the theft of catalytic converters for quite a while, but we actually have a plan in place where we have local mechanics etching the catalytic converters with numbers so that we can line them up if they're found. And that way we are planning to fully prosecute anyone that purchases a catalytic converter. And we've been doing this for quite some time. But as far as public safety, you know, I am endorsed by the Ventura County Deputy Sheriff's Association, the Ventura County Professional Firefighters Association, retired Sheriff Jeff Dean, retired DAs Greg Totten and Michael Bradbury, retired Fire Chief Bob Roper. My dad was a sheriff. I married a police officer, and my first job was with the LA County Marshal. I'm not going to try to change I'm not going to reduce the budget of the sheriffs, but I'm going to be mindful and work with them to make sure that we're spending our money the right way. And I know they're doing a good job. Moorpark's the third safest city in all of California, and we have been for 3 straight years. I'm really proud of that. I fought for Prop 40. I fought against Prop 47. That's the one that released criminals out of jail early. In fact, they are released so early that the reports aren't even completed by the officers when they're already out the door. So I'm not going to reduce the budget on our police or our fire. I'm going to work with them, and I'm going to be their partner. We're going to keep this community safe.
Thank you, Janice. Ed, same question to you. Share with us your priorities for the budget and also dealing with catalytic converter thieves.
Sure, and that's a really important question. So in terms of the budget, it's not a question of whether we should reduce or not. We should be increasing the budget for law enforcement. We need more law enforcement officers. We need more cops on the street. We need more jail capacity. We have to start moving away from this idea that has crept in the last couple of years that we're not going to be prosecuting things. We're not going to be arresting people for minor offenses. Public safety is a priority. And again, when you knock on doors and you talk to people, that is their #1 priority. Moorpark is safe. Simi Valley is safe. Our residents make it that way. They care about that. I'm proud of our Park District's contribution to that. People love a beautiful, safe community. And that's what we have. The other part of this that's really important, and hopefully we'll talk about these issues too, because they're related. Mental health and homelessness is every bit a part of public safety. And it's not a matter of diverting from public safety to those areas. It's finding government waste elsewhere and bolstering public safety and resources for mental health and taking care of the homelessness problem. That's what we need to do. Otherwise, we're going to become another LA County, and we want to keep Ventura County from becoming another LA County. And I'm proud of the fact that I have retired cops who live here, who've seen me work, live here in Simi Valley and Moorpark, who I've worked with, that are endorsing me and supporting me. I've been there. I've worked with them as a
Thank you, Ed. Dean, same question to you. Your priorities as far as the sheriff's budget, and also how would you deal with catalytic converter thieves?
Sure. Listen, one of the things all police departments in our local area, and I know this is a fact and Simi is having, is are we paying our sheriffs and our police department a proper wage? And what we see happening quite often is we don't pay enough. Therefore, if you don't pay enough, you're not going to get the best and the greatest. And we certainly want that for our county. One of the things I would do if elected county board of soups is immediately do a survey on pay scales for police officers for cities of our size and find out, are we paying our guys the right amount of money? Same goes for fire. If not, I want the best and the brightest protecting our citizens. Let's up that scale. Because again, what is the first job of government? Public safety. What is my first goal? Public safety. Regards to catalytic converters, I know one of my neighbors said, hey, I hope they come to my house. It makes for a target-rich environment. Certainly nothing you should be considering. Call PD if you have something like that going on. Listen, it's South American gangs, as we read in the newspaper, are coming up here from South America that are forming these groups that are stealing the catalytic converters. There was just one in the paper the other day. When they opened the trunk, there were a half a dozen catalytic converters. It's an ongoing problem. Without enough police on the ground, we're not going to solve that problem. Again, funding for police is going to be primarily my top priority.
Thank you, Bernardo. Same question to you on the priorities that you have with the sheriff's budget and also dealing with catalytic converter thieves.
Public safety has always been a priority for me from my days as a neighborhood council president to being on one of the early city councils in the city of Moorpark. We established the community culture of public safety as a top priority, and that's why we have consistently ranked as one of the safest cities in the United States. Regarding so nothing's going to change there. My priority for public safety has always been there and will always be there. Regarding your specific question about the catalytic converters, a couple of thoughts. One, there's a great program where the etching is being put on the catalytic converters. So that means we got to take care of where those thieves are taking those catalytic converters, drop the hammer on those fencing organizations. And it has to be a coordinated regional approach because as Dean just mentioned, these gangs are coming from outside of Ventura County. And the other thought is, we're almost a victim of our own success. People feel very safe in our communities and maybe they let their guard down, and they've got to be more mindful of locking their car doors if they don't park them in the garage. So we've got to pay attention to the details, be ever diligent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, you're up first. I'm going to shift a little bit. Let's talk about how you would handle being a supervisor and some of your strategies for that. Ed, certainly that a supervisor oversees the unincorporated parts of the county while 10 cities manage internally. Can you share with us a little bit of how you've collaborated with those communities that are in the unincorporated parts of the community? How would you deal with their issues? How would you help them resolve it?
Right, that's a great question. And I can tell you, for the past 5.5 years, serving as a member of the Rancho Simi Park Board, I've had to do exactly that. Just so everyone knows, the Rancho Simi Park District essentially consists of Simi Valley, neighboring unincorporated areas, and unincorporated Oak Park. And understandably, the citizens of Oak Park feel sometimes like they're a little bit left out geographically. During my first 5 years on the board, I served on an Oak Park advisory committee. And so I understand the needs of those that aren't in an incorporated city. I've worked with them. The main thing is you make sure they're heard. You take their advice seriously. It doesn't mean you're always going to go along with what they advise, but you need to take it seriously. And I'm going to give you one example of that. Our staff had recommended that there was this tree that was dying and it could damage playground equipment in one of the community parks. And we voted to cut it down, but the community complained about it. And at the end of the day, I asked to have it reconsidered. You have to listen to the people. We saved the tree, we moved the playground equipment, and that's how you work with people who are in an unincorporated area and sometimes feel they aren't being heard. You hear them, you consider them, and you take it seriously. And that's the same way I would handle my job as a supervisor.
Thank you. Bernardo, same question to you. How would you collaborate with the community that's unincorporated and also working with the cities? Just tell us about your experience working with unincorporated areas and how you would help them.
Years ago, when I had a proposed development project at the end of Catherine Road South in Simi Valley, it was in the city limits, but I specifically reached out to the Santa Susana Knolls HOA because I knew that they would be interested in any development that is adjacent to their community. So we reached out to them, heard their concerns, heard their suggestions, heard their thoughts, and they ended up supporting that little neighborhood development, which today is a beautiful environment. So I've already demonstrated that it's necessary to be a good neighbor, and I would do that as a county supervisor. And in fact, as supervisor, I would utilize some of the office budget to set up a meaningful means of communication with not only the Santa Susana Knolls area, but see if Homeacres would be interested in having some formal line of communication with the office. And outreach is more than just putting an announcement in the newspaper or on social media. You've got to do the legwork. It's labor intensive and time intensive, but it pays a great return on investment. And regarding the cities, my involvement over the years has been working with anybody and everybody for the collective good. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice, same question to you about working with the unincorporated community.
I've been working with unincorporated people for many years, especially as on the local agency formation commission. I've also worked with Homeacres on buffer situations, but I do have an open door policy, and nobody in the district would be treated any differently, whether they're in a city or in the unincorporated area. Many of them have already reached out to me. Some of them don't know who their future supervisor is or who their current one is. but I have spoken with the fire department regarding the residents of Bell Canyon. I've met with farmers and ranchers and talked with them about their concerns. And I've always been open. I'm very transparent. And I always try to work to solve problems. Can't solve every problem, but I certainly work to get there. So I will continue to do that. And if anyone reaches out for me, whether they're from a city or from an unincorporated area, I will be there for them and I will work through whatever problem they may have.
Thank you. And Dean, we'll wrap up with you. Same question.
Yep. Listen, even in my business and even when I was on the County Office of Education, I had a unique way of understanding what constituents and what areas needed. I would use the same formula if elected to the Board of Supervisors. And that is a strategy of having quarterly meetings with different special interest groups, whether it be HOAs, business people, realtors, maybe as a group, coffee shop owners as a group. There's no way as a Board of Supervisor with your staff, you can know every issue that's going on in your county. By meeting with those people on a regular basis, rather than waiting for them to call you, you can get out ahead of some of the issues, and then you don't have to try and unwind a clock. So I will surround myself with those kind of meetings. Another thing, for anybody that's ever been to the county supervisor's office, there's a huge meeting room. That's 95% of the time with a big, huge table is unused. It's got Zoom capacities, TV, so on and so on. I would make those available to these different organizations and groups. If they need a place to meet, let them come in and meet. And guess what? I could have a staff person sit in at that meeting. They could hear what the issues are, what those people are discussing. They can then come back, share that with me. And then once again, we can get out ahead and in front of issues that potentially may be harming people and businesses in our communities.
Thank you. Dean, I think I'll stay with you for this next question. Let's talk about, if you are elected supervisor, what will be some of your top priorities, your agenda, how you see yourself working? But for your priorities, tell us your detailed steps, not generalities. The question asks for detailed steps about how you're going to work to achieve those top goals.
All right, well, let me list what my top goals are first. As I mentioned earlier, public safety, without a doubt, my number one goal. Housing, another issue, second goal. The business environment and how we're losing jobs, another goal. Homeless issue, huge issue. And the economics. Again, we're headed towards some tough times. We need a numbers person in line to be able to deal with what's coming up economically. Now, in regards, let's take homeless as a first topic here. I've had to deal with homeless on numerous development sites. What I'm finding, about 80% of the homeless people are suffering from drug or alcohol abuse or have mental issues. It's really only 15–20% are physically homeless and just can't find a place to stay. The county has a lot of money when it comes to potential services that they can offer to the homeless people and drug people. Unfortunately, I do not feel that money is being spent wisely. The county is in a survey right now, or a report rather, that's due back to them, analyzing how that money can be better spent. Something we definitely got to do. In regard to housing, as I said, I'm a developer, so I'm not going to go into that issue. I understand that market from one end to the other thoroughly. Well, actually, that pretty well covers it. I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you. And Janice, we'll go to you next. So tell us about some of your top goals and, as best you can, the specific steps you're going to take to accomplish those goals.
Well, I mentioned it before, but public safety is my number one goal. How you achieve it is you meet with your deputies and your police departments. I mean, you try to reach out and bring them together. But I'm also big on economic development. And people would say, you know, I know the county has an economic development plan, but I've been on the Economic Development Collaborative a number of years ago. And I have also been a member of several chambers of commerce through my businesses. So I know how to reach out to business and recruit business. And I do believe that's part of being a county supervisor. You are promoting your county. You are going to be able to bring businesses into your county. I want to focus on business retention and attraction. Our businesses have gone through the worst times of their lives. Some of them will never reopen, which is really unfortunate. But we need to be more proactive. The county needs to be proactive and reaching out to cities and be a partner with cities instead of a competitor with cities. And with homelessness and mental health, there's a lot of things we can do. But I read something recently, aside from meeting with the liaison for the Ventura County Sheriffs on homelessness, he talked with me about what's not working. So we need to start talking about what is working. And one of the things that could work, and it's very interesting to me, is some work that Kaiser Permanente is doing with a lot of other healthcare providers. They have a plan that is a 5-pillar plan. I might take that. Well, I'd love to share it. Thank you.
Right. And Bernardo, same question to you. Tell us about your top goals, 2 or 3 goals, and how you will actually try to accomplish those goals. Let's see, did we get you unmuted? There we
You
are.
would think I'd know this after 2 years of Zoom, right? Number one is to protect the environment we live in. And one of the primary activities I would focus on is to ensure the full cleanup of the Santa Susana Field Lab. That has been going on for far too long. There's been a little bit of progress, but we need 100% full cleanup in there. Second would be to conserve and protect our water supply and water quality in order to sustain our agriculture and nourish our residents. And it would be getting all the stakeholders to come up with equitable solutions and problem solving, and increase the availability and accessibility of mental health services throughout the county. And, this county is doing a lot of good work, a lot of good coordinated work, but we need to make sure that those are distributed countywide, and specifically for tonight's purpose within the 4th district. And I participated in the annual homeless count. And the takeaway for me was a lot of these individuals experience some of the same challenges that we know people in our own family or neighbors or friends experience, but these people just didn't have the wherewithal or know how to access the services. So we have to build provider capacity to meet this growing demand of homelessness and mental health problems in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, same question. What would be your top goals? How would you actually achieve them?
Absolutely. Number one, public safety. You don't defund like they're doing in that county next door. You bolster. You put more officers on the street, and you prosecute when people are arrested for crimes. But it's even more than that. Again, I spoke earlier, mental health and homelessness are a part of public safety. I know that, as one of my assignments when I was a prosecutor was to work the mental health division. You don't do what they do in that county next door. You don't just give away housing at upwards of $800,000 for one condo unit. You use that money to provide bridge and transitional housing so that you can treat addiction, so that you can treat substance abuse, so you can give support and empowerment and training. And that's how you solve the homeless problem. Otherwise, they're just a statistic, and you're going to get what you get next door in LA County. Number two, local businesses and jobs. We have to ease the permitting. We have to ease the taxation. We need to get local businesses and jobs back. We need our middle class back. So that's number two. And number three is freedom and opportunity. Government needs to get its foot off our throat. The last 2 years has been inexcusable. I would take a look at the management staff and everyone that was involved, especially the county health officer, and what they did to our community, what they did to our citizens, shutting them down and placing them under house arrest, that was unacceptable.
Thank you. Bernardo, we'll move on to the next question. So the current supervisor for this district is Bob Huber, and before that was Peter Foy. Share with us how your style, let's talk a little bit about your style of accomplish things. How would that compare to these former supervisors? What would you do that's similar? What would you do that's different?
Well, I don't like to, and I think it's unfair to create comparisons necessarily, but it's my approach to treat everybody with dignity and respect. I know how it feels to have been on this side of the dais, and when my concerns or questions I felt were not thoroughly addressed or responded to, or they were just outright dismissed. So it's been my practice to make sure that any deliberative process I'm involved with, any activity I'm involved with in my roles is inclusive, transparent, and participatory, because whatever the outcome is, I hope that people will be better able to accept that outcome. Just as a curiosity, Bob Huber and I have had similar political career paths. We were on city councils together. We've both been mayor. I succeeded him on the community college board when he was elected mayor in Simi Valley. And I hope to succeed him again on the county board of supervisors. Thank you.
Okay, Dean, same question. Share with us how you think your style will be similar or different with the current and previous supervisors.
Well, Supervisor Huber and Supervisor Foy prior to them, they've done an excellent job representing the East County. But as always, there's more to be done to keep the accomplishments and programs moving forward on behalf of county residents. And there are always new issues cropping up, as we've recently seen with the new debacle of the county's CEO. Simi Valley and Moore Park, they need strong and equal representation. As I said before, you know, this end of the county seems to get shortchanged. We're sort of a secondhand neighbor, it seems, at time. And one of the things I want to fight for is equal status of services. Having worked with Supervisor Huber, his example of hard work, dedication, they've set the standard for effective county leadership. And I'm very proud of the fact both Supervisor Foy and Supervisor Huber, I worked on their campaigns. Supervisor Huber's campaign, my political team actually ran his campaign. So there's a close tie there with those kind of folks. And again, looking at successful leadership helps you not have to reinvent wheels and continue your own successful leadership. I have that leadership ability. I exhibited that while on the Ventura County Board of Education. Got to work with Bernardo on aligning subject matter to the college versus the schools, bought into construction trades. Again, it's leadership. I don't take staff comments. I just go ahead and do my own research.
Thank you. Ed, same question to you. How would your style compare to the previous supervisor?
Right. Well, look, that's a great question. And I just first want to say, Bob Huber and his wife, Deb, are dear friends. And I want to commend Bob on just the stellar career as mayor and as a county supervisor. My style would differ a lot from Bob. It would differ a lot from your current group of supervisors. We need change. And it would differ from my opponents in this race. I'm a fighter. I'm not a career politician. I'm not about government bureaucrats. I'm here to fight for the people, and we need that now. We've had a CEO for the past decade that has had way too much power, and we saw that all come to a crashing halt several months ago. The power should be with the people, and that means it should be the supervisors dictating to the CEO, not the CEO dictating to the supervisors. We need to be more accountable to the people. I'm not going to be afraid to be a no vote. Collaboration and compromise is fine, but you need to do it from a position of strength, and the people need to reestablish their strength. We don't need one powerful CEO running the county. We need our wonderful community of people running the county. And I am there to fight for them. I would have pounded the table and voted no on giving the CEO and the county health officer raises and contract extensions. It was wrong.
Thank you. Janice, we'll wrap up with you about comparing your style with Supervisor Huber and Foy.
Actually know both of them quite well. Bob Huber and I were both elected mayors. We worked together on Ventura Council of Governments for a number of years. We are very, very much alike in the way we think and the way we care about the community and the outreach and closeness that we have. But I will say that Moore Park has never, ever had a county supervisor represent the district. And it would sure be appropriate this time, considering the experience, to have one. But I am a collaborator first. I will always collaborate first before I ever fight, because I don't want to be a standalone fighter. And I prefer a collaboration every time. And there are ways of getting people to see your perspective without fighting. And lastly, you know, you just got to get out of your office more as a supervisor. You have to be connected to the community. You have to be connected to your own employees, so that you know and can determine whether or not there is an issue going on between the CEO of the county. That as a human resource executive for many, many years, I would not tolerate that type of behavior. And I would hope that employees would come forward and have that kind of relationship with the employees, that they would feel comfortable coming forward and sharing a terrible experience with me. I'm that person. Thank you.
Thank you. So this, it's all sort of alluded to this. So let's talk about the next county CEO. That's a position that is now being recruited for. Share with us, and there's two parts to this question. One is what you would look for in a new CEO. But the other part is saying that there's been several high-profile allegations of sexual harassment in our county. So what would you also do to ensure that ceases? Ed, you're up first.
Right. Well, those are great questions. You really ought to give us double time for those. But anyway, first of all, the next elected supervisors are the ones who should make the decision on who the next CEO is. Again, government belongs to the people, and when the people elect the supervisors, they should make that decision. We need a CEO who's an outsider. We need to get away from this mess that's occurred. We need to get away from the mess that shut down our community for nearly 2 years and shut down businesses and held people under house arrest and wouldn't allow our children in the classrooms. So we need an outsider. We need someone with business and nonprofit experience. And it's okay if they have government experience, but what we do not need is a government bureaucrat. And we need someone who's going to insist on transparency and understands that government belongs to the people. Workplace misconduct is such an important topic. We've probably either all been part of that in terms of being victimized or know someone who's been victimized. The tools are out there, the education, the training, the understanding that these things need to be reported immediately and encouraged to be reported immediately and confidentially. That takes care of the victim, it takes care of the accused, but most of all, it takes care of the workplace. The environment the current CEO had was divisive. It led to another form of workplace misconduct, malicious gossip. We need to have a CEO who has less power, and we have the tools. We just need the right CEO.
Thank you. Bernardo, same question to you. What are you looking for in the next CEO, and how would you deal, or how would you ensure that these cases of sexual harassment are brought to an end?
What I would look for in a CEO is one that is able to implement the goals and policies and strategies identified and established by the Board of Supervisors. And one way to do that, because that is just one individual, is to delegate appropriate authority to downline personnel, because they are closer to the ground, closer to the work, and I would think have a greater firsthand knowledge of the best practices to get the work done and to produce the outcomes that we're all looking for. Regarding the second part of that question, I think it's the corporate mindset, the corporate culture, if you will, that begins with the Board of Supervisors, but then it has to transition down and be in alignment with the top corner office down to the person doing the work, and to treat everybody with dignity and respect. I mean, that's just a simple credo. I mean, we all want that ourselves. We should just ensure that the rules and procedures are in place, and there's a system to monitor and for the effectiveness of how people are conducting themselves with and for each other. It's pretty simple, but it takes constant attention, and that's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice, same question to you. What are some of the qualities you would look for in the next CEO, and what would you do to try and stop these cases of sexual harassment?
Well, I know what I would be looking for. The person has to have a strong moral compass. And you would be able to tell that, by just interviewing prior employers, but they need to be transparent. There's a lack of transparency going on here. They need to be financially savvy because we're going to probably face another recession. So they really need to be on their top of their numbers. They need to understand federal and state issues. Those items are going to impact a county, and they need to be on top of those. They need to be a strong leader, a critical thinker, and they need to see cities as partners in the county. And you keep hearing that theme that I go with, because I have never felt like this, our cities were partners with the county, but we're not a competitor. And so I would look for someone that doesn't look at cities like the ugly stepchild, but more like a partner. What's occurred in this situation was, you know, I've seen it many times. I was a human resources executive of a company with over 600 employees. So yes, it does happen. The best way you can handle it is you could have a hotline, you could have a reporting box, but you have to have managers that are open and feel comfortable in letting employees come to them when they have a problem. So you need all of that. You need a really good environment, healthy work environment. And you can manage it if you manage the managers well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean, same question to you about the misconduct in the office and also what you would look for in the next CEO.
Sure. Little comment on what I think we can expect on our next leader of our county. I doubt very much the current board is going to allow the new members to pick that person. I think you will see a concerted effort to get that done prior. Remember, it's the current board of supervisors will set the parameters for what they're looking for as far as a new officer. So if you're happy with the current board and everything they're doing, anticipate you're going to have somebody leading the county that's going to follow their lead, because that's who they work for. As vice chair of the Taxpayer Association, we've taken an aggressive role on this already. What got us into this problem was the CFO category, giving all that responsibility and allowing the leader of the county to have control over human resources. It's only one of 8 counties in the whole state that does that. Everybody else has CAOs, Chief Administrative Officers. We have written a letter to the County Board of Soups asking them to look at doing that. The difference being is the CEO, he is reportable to the board, and the human resources reportable to the board, not to the CFO. Therefore, you break that chain that's there that created this current problem. So again, getting out ahead of these issues, thinking ahead is something I do on an ongoing basis. And I was proud to help pen and sign the letter to the Board of Soups asking them to consider a CAO position.
Thank you. Janice, we're going to move on and talk about homelessness. In Simi Valley, there's homelessness. There's homelessness throughout the county, quite a bit in the West End. So you're one of 5 of the supervisor, but tell us what your policies would be towards Simi Valley homelessness and also countywide homelessness.
Well, it appears that a lot of the homelessness is in the county or in between cities. But what it really is there's either mental health issues or just health issues or a proliferation of drug issues. And there was an actor that was in Simi Valley very recently, and he said, we don't have a housing problem, we have a drug problem. Health and housing are linked, and ending homelessness is a healthcare issue. And I mentioned earlier that I spoke with the county liaison in the sheriff's department, and he told me things that I want to spend more time with him on, but one of them was that Project Room Key didn't work. And I want to learn what did work or what isn't working. And I also want to kick in, and I didn't get to finish this part when I was talking about Kaiser Permanente and their 5 pillars. They have a purpose. They talk about commitment, inflow, governance, financing, and housing placements. But the whole county, every one of us that live here have to buy in on solving the problem. And we all need to agree that this is a problem and we need to work together. But I know we can do better. And I know that working with our sheriff's liaison and people that are on the ground working with the homeless can help us solve that. And I plan to do that as your supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, same question to you. What would you do about the homelessness in Simi Valley and also countywide?
Sure. And this is a super important question because as Janice alluded to, it's a public health issue, but it really is a public safety issue too. And what What we need to do is approach homelessness the correct way. As I said before, you don't just give away housing. What they do in LA County, they think of as compassionate. They think they're providing housing to a homeless person, housing first, no strings attached, and then they put them in some sort of housing and they consider it a statistic. But if they don't give them the help they need, that person's going to be back out on the street or maybe suffer a fate even worse. What they're doing over there is not compassionate, it's inhumane. What you need to do is take those funds, take the money you have and get transitional and bridge housing. You need to get treatment for addiction, for mental health. You need to provide support, empowerment, and training. That is how you solve the homelessness problem, not just by giving them a shelter or a temporary shelter and then chalking it up as a statistic for someone you supposedly got off the street. And if we solve homelessness, and by the way, we need more mental health facilities throughout the county. And we have a budget of upwards of $2.5 million. It can be done. And we certainly need more in the East County. And we have to start moving in that direction.
Thank you. Dean, share with us your plans to reduce homelessness in Simi Valley and countywide.
Sure, it's a two-part issue. One is those that are in dire need financially and are truly homeless, and the other end of that equation is the alcohol and drug abuse problem. Homeless issues are and continue to be a substantial problem. It's facing individuals and communities throughout Ventura County. You know, we spend a great deal of time and money on the needs of the homeless, but we spend little time on job creation and bring businesses to our county and communities. The best way to help, frankly, the homeless is to provide job opportunities and work with dignity. That not only gets the folks off the depressing spiral of homelessness, but it brings success and opportunity to their lives, which is what they need. Now, the other end of that equation is the drug and alcohol folks. Again, that's probably 80% plus of our homeless issue that's going on. I've had to deal with this directly while working with Simi Valley Police Department and removing these kind of people off job sites, off project sites, talking with businesses that are broken into on a regular basis. There needs to be an aggressive program in relationship to drug abuse. We've got a lot of problems because of laws set by the county. But again, one of the main issues that would be a tenet of my supervisor position is to delve deep and to work with the state to try and change some of those rules so we can aggressively help those that are drug addicted.
Thank you. Bernardo, we'll wrap up the question with you.
As I heard you ask the question, David, you mentioned that there is a homeless problem in Simi Valley, but that there were services in the rest of the county, primarily West County. And that's the case. The county has been doing some good things and in a coordinated, collaborative manner with various agencies that, you know, housing, mental health, alcohol and drug addiction, and with public safety. And you're right, again, it is part of the public safety issue as well. We need to make sure that those services are available, as I said earlier, countywide, and specifically in the East County, where we're a little deficient in the range of services available. I mentioned I was on the point in time homeless count this year. I have previously served about 14 years on the Board of Community Action of Ventura County, which lifted individuals and families out of poverty and into self-sufficiency and out of homelessness. And I spent a couple of evenings at the winter warming shelter this season at the Samaritan Center. And again, just reconnecting with the homeless population to understand or try to understand what their experience is, what their needs are, and what could be better done to serve that population. Again, Ventura County is of a manageable size that we can solve these manageable issues, but we have to get on them now.
Thank you. Dean, we'll shift to you for this next question. And this one, tell us a little more about your philosophy. So it's what programs that are underway now and what do you think should be proposed to advance the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout Ventura County, not just in the government, Dean, but throughout the communities. Share with us your thoughts about diversity, equity, and inclusion and to promote that?
Well, you know, when you're somebody like me that spends most of his life in this community doing volunteer work, participating with organizations, to me, that's the rent you pay back to your community for having a great place to live and to raise your family. That's certainly when you're doing that kind of work and effort, bridges all these things we hear out there about race and equity and all that, because you're trying to do things that help everybody overall. With affordable housing projects we've done, we get to help those kind of people. People that need veteran housing, we've been able to help those people. So again, I look for holes in the community and look how to fill those. Again, I don't get into all this diversity and race type issues. Everything I do, it's totally just helps everybody overall. I don't believe in segmenting out individual groups and trying to figure out how to help that group or this group. You try and find things that you can do that help everybody overall in the whole county. An example of that is when I was on the county board, I worked constantly up in Sacramento and brought back $16.5 million back to our county. Allowed us to put a career tech facility in Janice Parvin's city of Moore Park as one of the examples. Again, that helped everybody across the county, from the very poor to the very wealthy. That's what I do. I look at what I can do that'll benefit people overall, and everybody benefits from that, and all ships rise with that kind of philosophy.
Thank you. Janice, as far as your views about any programs that are currently underway or some that you might propose to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout Ventura County?
Well, I know in our city, we're looking at everything as far as our programs, from our budget to who we go out to bid with. We want to make sure that they are very equitable to their employees and fair. And, you know, it really, we all want to treat each other fair and equally, no matter who we are, no matter what we look like. And we were all raised that way. I'm not sure why people feel that they're not being treated equally, because unless they should speak up, because I know that we treat, you know, in my city, if you look at the employee base, we make up just about every type of person. And I think we have the most amazing staff filled with diversity, and those were qualified employees. They were qualified. That's how they got the job. So if you want to go check out any of my employees at City Hall, you would be pleasantly pleased that they all got the job with different backgrounds, with different ethnicities. And I'm very proud of my staff. We are amazing what we have done, what we have hired, and definitely we look at our programs, everything we do, we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all the things that we do in the city of Moore Park. And we would do that in the county as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernardo, same question to you. What are some of the programs that you appreciate now, and what would you propose to advance DEI throughout the county?
Well, without being specific and calling out any one program over another, there are a range of county programs and services that do respond to the needs of our county residents. Regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility, one major distinction I'd like to point out is it's not just a simple matter of treating everybody equally, because it's more a matter of treating people equitably, because those with the greatest need deserve the greatest response, and everybody is different and have different needs, different capacities. And, you know, it's really an investment in our human capital, that our workforce, for example, reflects the community that it serves. And in so doing, it creates in the mind of others seeking an opportunity in the county or in the city or even in their own community and neighborhoods that, hey, they see models that reflect who they are, and you lead by example in that way. And I want to dispel the myth that DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, is not a quota system at all. That's not what it's all about. It's treating people with dignity and respect, as I mentioned, and leveling the playing field of opportunity for everybody. and recognizing where we
I
have
have to
implicit
stop you there.
bias.
I have to stop there,
There we go.
Bernardo.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ed, same question to you.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to start off in terms of the communities that I would be representing as supervisor. I think we need to pat ourselves on the back. We have come a long way when it comes to diversity and equity and inclusion. And but there's always more that can be done. As leaders, as a supervisor, one of the things, if you see racist behavior, you denounce it. If a hate crime occurs, it should get prosecuted. And but then there's really another aspect to this, and it keeps coming back to the same thing. Part of what would help us, and part of what increases social and racial tensions, is when people are oppressed. We need to get government off our backs. If we get government off our backs and our quality of life improves, people tend to be happier, and social and racial tensions tend to go away. We need to focus on getting government off our backs. And the type of things that have been advanced, critical race theory, some of the other things, we're defeating the purpose when we start labeling one group as the oppressor. It's wrong, and all it does is incite. And I want to leave on this issue with this quote, and I think we need to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his "I Have a Dream" speech, when he said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. We need to return to that type of thinking.
I have to stop you there, Ed. Going to move on to the next question, and Bernardo, you'll be up first on this one. I have to say, candidates, I've been doing forums in the Simi Valley area for 12, 16 years, something like that. This question comes up a lot with city councils, and I'm glad to see it here as well. What are your thoughts about the Santa Susana Field Lab? How should the cleanup be addressed? Do you think more can be done? What will you do to finally make something happen?
I've already spoken to that, David, but thanks for asking again. And as I said, this has been a lingering for far too long issue. Promises were made, agreements were made for the total cleanup of this Santa Susana Field Lab, and we just need to hold accountable those parties to those agreements to clean it up. Now, the County Board of Supervisors has a limited role to play regarding the, authorizing agencies. But what we need to do is to be ever vigilant and be that loud voice, that constant voice, and work with local community members that are pushing for the 100% cleanup of that lab, and let them know, and let the regulatory bodies know that we're not going to drop the issue, that we're going to keep the pressure on to the greatest extent that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean, we'll go to you next. Same question. What are your thoughts about how to get that Santa Susana Field Lab finally cleaned up?
I'm very, very aware of this because I've been following it ever since inception. I was approached years ago after these issues had arisen at Rocketdyne by a bond company out of New York, and a developer wanted to develop their Uncle Canyon site, approximately 500 homes there. One of the first things I told that group was, I will not help entitle your project unless you grant me one item. And they said, what is that? I want to hire 3 independent environmental firms to go out and check that site to see what effect Rocketdyne had on it, without any of them knowing about the other one. All those reports came back negative, no issues. Now, does that mean that there's no problems at Rocketdyne? Certainly not. That site needs to be cleaned. It needs to be gotten back to what it needs to be so people can enjoy that particular area. I do believe the county soups as well as cities can have some force in making those changes. And again, it's a matter of not just relying on your staff to do things, but contacting, as the supervisor, your congressmen, your senators, meeting with them and making this a primary issue in front of them. So I totally support getting that site cleaned up, putting that issue to bed. It's been going on way too long.
Thank you. Ed, same question to you about Santa Susana Field Lab.
Right. So this is an issue where there has been way too much politics involved. We all know that there's contamination. We all know that it needs to be cleaned up. And the fact that it's taken us this long to get to the point where there hasn't even been a cleanup started is inexcusable. But the problem is extremist politics. What really is a total cleanup? There are two plans out there, certainly two distinct plans, one of which, and Bernardo refers to 100% cleanup. Well, what does that really mean? Would you rather have a cleanup that gets started right away and is going to be completed in 8 years, or one that's going to take 25 years? Would you rather have the one that's going to cost less money or more money? Would you rather have the one that's going to reduce traffic impacts or the one that's going to increase traffic impacts? Would you rather have the one that's going to cause less damage to the ecology, or would you rather have the one that is going to take more time and cost more money, but really provide no more meaningful protection to the environment? That's really the issue here, and that's what's been holding it up. If reasonable minds would just come together, this can be done. We don't need to do overkill on this. We need to get it cleaned up. With that lesser plan, the one that would be done faster at less cost, 90% of as much contamination would be removed, and that additional 10% would be de minimis and would not hurt the public. That's what we need to think about here.
Thank you. Janice will wrap up this question with your plans for addressing the Santa Susana Field Lab.
Well, when I moved to Simi Valley back in 1985, I think it was, when the windows would rattle and shake, I knew something was up, and we were testing rockets. But you know, I was one of the signatures on the letter sent in October 2021 by a number of local elected officials. It was addressed to the California EPA regarding how many delays there have been in the cleanup. The DTSE is mediating with Boeing to get them to expedite the cleanup. And the California EPA says that they're going to pursue litigation if Boeing holds out any longer on the 2007 consent order. So to me, I'm done waiting. And whatever a county supervisor's authority to do, it's time to do it. It's time to clean it up. Plan 1 or plan 2, let's get to it. It's like working with Caltrans. Let's just get it done.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates. We had a lot of great questions. I'm sorry that we don't have enough time to get every single question asked. I have quite a few more, but want to respect everyone's time tonight. We're going to begin our closing statements. Each candidate will have a minute and a half. We're going to do it in reverse order. So our first candidate for the closing statement will be Bernardo Perez. When you're ready, you have a minute and a half.
Thank you, David. I want to close by thanking the League of Women Voters Ventura County for conducting this voter education forum, and thank you, the viewing audience, for your interest and attention. For 40 years, I have worked to protect, preserve, and enhance the quality of life for all residents in Ventura County. Through my participation at the local, regional, and statewide level, I have focused on those issues with the human face, the hard issues that impact our day-to-day lives, issues such as housing. Our young people cannot afford to live in the community in which they grew up, while local workers cannot afford to live close to home, creating traffic problems, degrading air quality, and taking time away from family. Health and Human Services advocate for the adoption and implementation of policies and programs that respond to the basic health and wellness needs of our neighbors. This includes providing available, accessible, and affordable health care for the body and for the mind in collaboration with local government and community-based organizations. As your county supervisor, I will continue working with others to protect, preserve, and enhance the quality of life for everyone in Ventura County, and certainly for the 4th District. Because this event is held via Zoom, I cannot introduce my #1 supporter to you. I could not have accomplished what I have over time without the constant, consistent support and encouragement of my wife, Victoria. So I want to at least give her a shout out and a huge thank you, and I love you. And with that sign off, everyone, have a good evening.
Thank you, Bernardo. And we'll go to our next candidate, Dean Kunicki.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting this on this evening. And David, as always, great moderator. Thank you for everything you're doing. Listen, I heard earlier one of our candidates, and we're all friends. We know each other, but pretty much indicated they were the only fighter. I take umbrage with that. I think we're all fighters. Along those lines, you want to know what somebody does, look what they've done in their community. I've sat on the neighborhood council system. I was past executive board member of the Cultural Arts Center. Handled the city's designs for the Cochran Street extension here in town, handled their citywide design guideline committee, chairing their budget committee, started Red Cross here in town, formed the foundation for Rancho Simi that Mr. Abele serves on, started the foundation for the school district here, the nonprofit, handled the Rancho Simi Recreation Park District 5-year general plan update as a co-chair on that. Youth Service Concerned Parent Networks, that was trying to stop drugs going into the school. Crime Prevention Committee, my wife and I were the first ones to bring Neighborhood Watch to Simi Valley. Concerned Parents Network did that. Concerned Citizens for Equitable Water Rates, I helped the city design their water guidelines. The bottom line is I'm a doer, I get it done. I'm not just a fancy speaker, don't ever want to be, I just get things accomplished. Thank you, look forward to your vote.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ed Abele.
Thank you. So I want to share with you my motivation for running for this office. And it can best be described by two events that occurred 10 days apart, early during the government shutdown of society at the beginning of the pandemic. April 8th, 2020, my courageous wife had a life-saving kidney transplant. She received that kidney donor from a superhero living donor. We found that donor in the community through a community campaign that involved dedicated, concerned citizens. That is the beauty of our people. 10 days later, April 18, 2020, my mother passed, not from COVID. Her failing heart finally gave out. She died alone in a room in her retirement home. She was not allowed any visitors during the last 3 weeks of her life. My mother, the woman who lived the American dream, died a victim of our government-imposed American nightmare. It is time to get government off our backs. It is the thing that causes most of our problems. If we get government off our backs, we can get local businesses back. We can get jobs back. We can get our middle class back. We can have water without having to water our lawns 1 day a week. We can solve the homelessness problem, and we can all feel safe. So I ask you to join me. I am fighting for you, the people. We are all in this together, fighting for the American dream.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Janice Parvin.
Thank you. I am a problem solver and a collaborator. I'm a team player with a proven track record of success. I've led our community through the Great Recession, several fires, a flood event, and now a pandemic. I am a public safety candidate and my endorsements prove it. I fought against Prop 47, which has released dangerous criminals into our communities. I'm not a career politician. I work full-time job, raised a family. I've grown companies in Ventura County. I've owned a company in Ventura County where I sign the front of a paycheck. I know how to streamline county processes and retain and attract new business. I'm a fiscal conservative and I know how to remove red tape. I have 20 years in office and I've never missed a meeting or a vote, no matter what comes up. We have several critical issues ahead of us: inflation, water shortages, homelessness, mental health, catching up our kids on their education. And I know how to build consensus and how to get our county moving forward. You deserve competent leadership ready to work on day one, and I am that candidate. I humbly ask for your vote. If you have any questions about my candidacy, please look for Janice Parvin. Janice Parvin for Supervisor 2022.com. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Now, don't go anywhere. We have some important announcements coming up for everyone, but I want to do at this time just thank all of the candidates again for their participation tonight. And with that, I would like to bring back Kathy Morgan, the chair of the Voter Services Committee with the League of Women Voters.
Thank you, David, and thank you to all the candidates for your informative session this evening and to all who attended. At this time, I'm going to attempt to screen share some important information presented by the League of Women Voters. Okay. Okay, so it's not too early to plan your vote. The official ballots will be mailed to all registered voters starting May 9th. Once you have filled out your ballot, place it in the official return envelope, being sure to sign the back of the envelope. Oops, sorry. Postage is prepaid on the return envelope, so it can be dropped into a mailbox or into one of the 38 drop boxes located around the county, which will be open starting May 9th. You may also take it directly to any of the in-person vote centers around the county. 10 of these vote centers will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. starting May 28th. 51 vote centers open June 4th from 4 to 6 from 10 a.m. June 4th through 6th, excuse me, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on election day, June 7th, from 7 to 8 p.m. Oops, okay, let's see. In terms of planning your vote, check your voter registration status at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. You'll want to check and make sure that they have your correct mailing address so that you will get your ballot in the mail. To find the drop box and vote center locations, go to venturavote.org. To register for ballot tracking, where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov, you can track your ballot from start to finish, knowing when it's been mailed to you, when it's been received at the vote centers, and when it's been counted. There are several nonpartisan voter information sites to learn more about the candidates and ballot measures, including Voters Edge, which is the league site, and Ballotpedia. I encourage all of our candidates to include their information on these nonpartisan sites so that voters can learn about your priorities. As a reminder, this forum was being recorded and this video will be accessible from our website, League of Women Voters, VenturaCounty.org, under candidate forums within 24 to 36 hours. There are links to watch the videos of past forums, as well as links to register for future candidate forums. Next week, we will hear from the candidates for sheriff on Tuesday and from the candidates for treasurer on Thursday. Please, thank you very much for attending tonight. Please follow us on your favorite social media site, and please don't forget to vote. Thank you and good night.